Welcome back to In the Midst. Today, I want to go back to the Old Testament to a couple men that you might be kind of familiar with. Moses and Hur, H-U-R. This was a man that we don't really know much about, but there's so much to learn from him here. I'm in Exodus chapter 17, verses 8 through 16. Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, Choose us out men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in mine hand. So Joshua did as Moses said to him, and fought with Amalek. Joshua was their military leader at this time. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Moses was the leader, the man of God. Aaron was the priest, and Hur was a man that was following God, following Moses. He was just there. You know, he doesn't really have a big title, a big position. And it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. This was the first, I believe this was the first battle the Israelites faced on their way to the promised land. So this was a big deal. They needed this victory. But Moses' hands were heavy. Can you imagine holding your hands up? I don't know, we don't know if it was one or both, but he's got the rod of God in his hand. He's holding his arm up. And as long as his arm is up, they're winning. God is giving the victory. How long can you do that for before you're like, man, oh, this is heavy. This is a lot. He's standing too. He's standing at the beginning of this, holding his hand up. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. Okay, so now we're getting to sit down, but we're still holding our arm up. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. We don't know what time of day this started, but it's definitely until sunset. This is more than just 20, 30 minutes. This is hours. But this is huge. So Moses was the man of God, just like your pastor is the man of God that God has placed in authority. And I actually heard this preached at church. Our assistant pastor preached this. And while he was preaching, God just said, that's the role of the wife. Apply this to your marriage. Apply this to your marriage. So I talked to my assistant pastor and I told him that that's what God had given me. And I felt like I needed to make that application and share it. He said, go for it. And when I posted my blog, he actually asked me to read it. So I sent him the link, and he said that, it was good that I was right. This was a great application. So this is not completely original, but it's all Bible, okay? So as we can apply that in that situation, we can also apply this to your marriage. So we see this imagery of they are holding him up, they are supporting him, they are helping him. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, Write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua. For I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar, and called the name of it Jehovah Nissi. For he said, Because the Lord hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Hur is a man that we don't know much about, and that's okay. There's just a few verses about him, and many of the ones that we do have are part of a genealogy, just telling us about his family. But in Scripture, this is the Israelites' first battle on their way to the Promised Land. Hur is seen here holding up one of Moses' hands during the battle. I feel like we could have expected Aaron to be there since he is the priest. He is the religious leader. He is not a warrior. He is not a leader in the army, so we can expect him to be on the sidelines. However, being on the sidelines of the big battle, he's not just sitting. He is serving. He is busy. He is helping the man of God. And maybe you're thinking like, well, my husband isn't the man of God. He's not the leader that he should be. You're the leader I think he should be. That's okay. Doesn't matter. God has still given you the position of being a wife, being a helpmeet to him. This is your job. Look closely at verse 9. Moses says that he will go to the top of the hill. He didn't say we are going to the top of the hill. He didn't say I'm going to sit over here where it's easy. He said I'm going to climb up this hill. We don't know how big it was. So I can see everything going on. He wanted a full view of this battle. And he didn't say, I'm going and I want you and you and you to go with me. He just said, I'm going to go. This is what I'm going to do. But as far as we can see, Moses didn't ask them to go. But when he gets to the top of the hill, these two men are standing there with him. Moses was the leader of the Israelites, and Aaron and Hur are supporting their leader, the man of God, willingly. I feel like willingly is a huge, huge thing. You can support your husband. You can be the submissive wife, but you can do it begrudgingly. And that's not okay. Sometimes it's hard, and sometimes we do it because we know this is what God said and we know this is right. But that shouldn't be your attitude all the time of, I don't even like this guy, but I'm stuck doing what he says, okay? That's not how this is supposed to be. That's not a marriage. And your motive, your heart condition matters to the Lord. So make sure your motive is right. Many times in context, like I said, this is taught to remind us to be supportive of our pastor. 110% agree. But like I said, this can be applied to the wife as well. We need this kind, willing, voluntary service in our home. That's what you are to be. As a mom, as a wife, that is your position. It's your job to do that as a mother because that's the example you're setting for your children. You're teaching them this. As a wife, because this is what God has called you to do. This is so important for us to get. Hur climbed to the top of the hill with Moses. He didn't look for the easy way up. He didn't say, that hill is too big, too hard. I ain't going. I can help from down here. That wasn't where God wanted him to be. Sometimes we feel like life is an uphill battle. And I get it, and it is, and Satan attacks, and, finances go crazy, and there's a job change, and we have to move, and the kids are throwing a fit, and someone's sick again. And it's just, man, one thing after another, and we're just getting beat up, and I get that. There will be trials in your marriage. There will be things that feel like this huge mountain that you're never going to get to the top of. But you will. Hur didn't quit. He didn't give up. He climbed until he got to the top of that mountain. So wife, I want to remind you, I want to encourage you to keep climbing. Keep supporting your husband. Keep trusting him. Keep trusting God with your husband in your marriage. Hur jumped into action to help Moses without being asked. He had a servant's heart. As a wife, you are your husband's helpmeet. No one else has been given this position. God didn't say, well, if your wife doesn't do it, then you can ask her best friend or your secretary or your supervisor or your Sunday school teacher. Okay. God didn't give a plan B. He said the wife is the helpmeet, and that's it. There was a period there. When trials come, when he is struggling, when he needs your prayers, when he needs your encouragement, when he's not leading like you think, are you there? Or are you belittling him, telling him everything that he's doing wrong? That's not helping. That's not being a Hur. That's not a servant's heart. That's not being a helpmeet. If something's happening to him, with him, and your attitude is, it's not my problem, not my job, this is his deal. It's not what God said. God said you are one flesh. His problems are your problems. His battles are your battles. I understand you can't do them for him. You can't walk with God for him. You can't. But you have a responsibility to pray. You have a responsibility to encourage. You have a responsibility to say, honey, it's going to be all right. God's still in control. God is still good, and we are going to be okay. Or are you saying, well, how are you going to get us out of this mess? That's not a willing servant attitude. That's not being a helpmeet. That's not helping anything. It's not helping the situation. It's not helping him. That's making him want to throw in the towel. You're not solving anything. If Hur would have had the attitude of, not my problem, the Israelites would have lost the battle. People would have died. They would not have gained the land. Something was at stake for them, and the same is true for you in your marriage today. Something is at stake. Your marriage is at stake. Your marriage is a target for Satan. Your children are targets for Satan. Anything that reminds Satan of God, he wants to destroy. And if you're living the way God wants you to, that includes you. I wish I had better news. I wish I could say that you were exempt and everything's going to be fine. But that's not true. Something is at stake. If Hur would not have been there, people would have died because of his choice. Your choices not only affect you and your husband, they affect your children. They will affect you for generations to come. This is a big deal. We have got to start living in light of eternity. We cannot think of just today. This selfish, self-centered, short-term view is not a godly view. Living for ourselves because it feels good and it sounds good and it's easy and it doesn't matter is not a biblical mentality. The Israelites had victory because Hur chose to support their leader. Will your husband have victory? Will your marriage have victory? Will your home have victory because you have chosen to support your husband? When's the last time you prayed and fasted for your husband, for his spiritual well-being, for temptations that he was facing, for big decisions that he has to make? Or do we just say, it's not my problem? When your husband, your marriage, and your family are in the battle, do you support them? We see her supporting Moses until the going down of the sun. He was there until the battle was over. Not until things started to look good, until it got too hot, until he got too hungry, until he got too tired and he was like, peace out, I'm done. That wasn't his attitude at all. Hur and Aaron didn't know how long the battle would last. They did not say, we'll go up as long as we're done in 2 hours. I got stuff to do today. It's not what they said. They didn't ask. They went. They didn't even ask, as far as we can tell, they didn't ask Moses permission. They didn't say, hey, can we come with you? Let us help. What do you need from us? They went and they were there and they said, this is where we are. Is that where you are? Are you beside your husband? Are you saying, doesn't matter? Doesn't matter how long it takes. Doesn't matter what we have to go through. Doesn't matter how hard this is. I am right here. Have you told him that? Our husbands need to hear those words from us. That we love them, we believe in them, we support them, we are here to encourage them, and whatever God has is what we are going to do. We are going to help them be the men that God wants them to be. We're going to help them in the spiritual battle. Hur was not greatly recognized. He was not publicly thanked, and he was not in a leadership position. There was no promotion to second place when this battle was over. He wasn't the leader, nor was he bitter about being in submission to the God-given leadership. Bitterness will not lead you to support your husband. Can you imagine after this victory, everyone is done, everyone's going back to their tents, back home, the men are coming back, giving a report to their wives saying, man, look, this is what we did. God gave us the victory. We are moving into Canaan land. And Hur is just walking back to his tent going, good job, guys. He's not going, hello, I'm the reason you had the victory. Did you not see me up there holding up Moses' hands? Where's my thanks? He wasn't saying that. He wasn't reaching for that recognition. Just like Hur and Aaron, we are also to submit to our husband's leadership. We are not to try to be in control. We don't do this just to get the accolades and the praise of men and say, see that spiritual victory? That was me. That's not humility at all. Everything is to and because of God. He just uses us. Being like Hur means that you are invaluable. You are. You as a wife are invaluable to your husband, to your marriage, to your home. You have a great, great value and worth and price, and you are not replaceable. You're not. But we don't always feel that way. Life doesn't always say, hey, look what the wife did. You have to be involved to be like her. If you're sitting on the sidelines going, not my problem, that's not being involved. Sometimes you are invisible, like Hur, as he's walking back to the tent. No one is saying, hey, thanks for helping Moses. Good job. So glad we got that victory. They're all just focused on the victory, which is what we need to be focused on. We need to be focused on what God did, not on whether he used us or not, or how big our part was, or someone's going to tell us thank you. That's okay. We must be willing to serve, even if that means we don't get a thank you. That does not mean we get to be bitter. We don't get to complain. Our reward is of the Lord, and that's it. And when your husband wins spiritually, when he gets that victory, when God gives him that answer for the next step for your marriage, your family, your life, we win. That's a big deal. All that matters is that we are in the will of God, we are seeking him, and we are doing this thing together, because I'm not going anywhere. And that's what my husband needs from me. You might be invisible, but you are always an investor, and your investment is never going unseen by the Lord. I'm not saying that you should be invisible to your husband. He should love and appreciate you. But to the world, the church, sometimes your own family, your support and sacrifice will go unnoticed and maybe even belittled, especially by the world. You talk about being a submissive wife. You talk about supporting your husband through thick and thin. You talk about the stupid mistakes that he's made and how all you have to say is we're going to be okay and the Lord's here. The world is going to look at you like you've lost your marbles because they don't get it. And that's okay. They don't have to. God sees. God knows. And our eternal reward is waiting for us in heaven. And that's all that matters. We serve, support, submit, and sacrifice as unto the Lord. So others might see him through us, not for the praise and accolation of men. Not to be told by others that we're such good wives. It's so others can see God through us. When someone says, why did you stay? How did you help him through that? How did you not tell him he was an idiot? How did you let him make this mistake? God was in control and God handled it, and this is how God worked it out. I stayed because that's my biblical responsibility as a wife, because I love my husband and I know God's going to take care of us. That's it. We don't have to jump on the train of agreeing with how stupid the decision was and how bad he messed up and all that. It doesn't matter. That's not supporting your husband. You must be involved in order to support. If you are watching TV on your phone or out with friends all the time, this is not being involved in your husband's life or your home. Are you asking him how he is? How he is mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, how his day went, what he needs from you, or how you can pray for him? If you're not asking those things, you're not involved. You're living two separate lives. These are simple ways we can be intentionally involved. If you don't know how to support, you don't know what he needs, you don't know what he's going through, just ask. And he might say, nothing, I'm fine. And he really might be. He might not be. He might not know how to say it. He might not know how to talk about it. So you just pray for wisdom, protection, for God to lead, God to guide, God to provide, for God to work in his heart. Basic things, that's what we can pray for when we don't know exactly what he needs. And God will use that. When you serve like her, you are investing in your husband, in your children, in your marriage, and in eternal rewards. This investment is always worth whatever the sacrifice is. It's always worth not being able to finish that episode of TV, not being able to be on your phone for an hour, not being able to go out with girlfriends every weekend. Your marriage must come first. When we serve, we are also doing this unto the Lord. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's our motive. Do not live this life seeking to get your own way. Seek to do this life God's way. Trust him. Trust his plan. He knows what's best. He's given us our husbands, and he's given us a great responsibility. You are so very valuable to the Lord, to your husband, and to your marriage. Until next time, stay in the word, stay close to the shepherd, and let him lead you in paths of righteousness.